Hello everyone, welcome back to another YouTube video. I had a comment on my last video, the video about logos, meaning, and symbolism, and it was related to neuroscience. And I actually have been researching neuroscience in regards to meaning perception and how meaning is created, and I wanted to make this video in response to this comment by my good friend Brent. The comment is something essentially like, we perceive things based off of our memory of what has happened. We assign things, events, objects, stories based on the emotional response that our memory has stored of that thing. And this is kind of true, and I did some more research, and I wanted to kind of show you guys how the world is inherently meaningful and how the neuroscience actually shows that regardless of what you think, if the world is meaningless or not, your perceptions themselves, the way that your brain is neurochemically wired is to view the world through this meaning. There is inherent meaning in the world, and your brain is structured to view that meaning through a variety of neural processes that we're going to go over today. I first want to start out with saying everything in the world, everything that you do, the reason that you go about your day is predicated on an aim. So this is going to be the first part of our section, okay? Aim in regards to neuroscience is the thing in which you are seeking, the goal, the desire, the pursuit of something, okay? That is an aim. Now, there are an infinite number of facts, and this is what science has told us, this is what we know, and this is kind of the result of a meaningless world, is that there's an infinite number of facts, but we don't know how to structure them. But that's not how you live, okay? There's an infinite number of facts, there's an environment, there's a billions, trillions amount of input going into your sensory input, going into your eyes, okay? But you don't actually notice every single fact. You don't actually notice every single piece of input. Your aim predicates, it dictates what you are going to give your attention to, what facts you are going to focus on. So, for example, a basketball player on a court, his aim is to be the best basketball player he can, to play his best, to win the game. And there's an infinite number of facts that he could be focusing on the court. He could be focusing on his opponent's sneakers, some person in the audience, whatever, okay? But because of his aim, he's able to narrow down his focus via attention. So this is the first neural process in the brain. It's an attention, okay? Via attention, you are going to narrow down the facts based on your aim on what it is you want to pursue, on what it is you want to focus on. So here we can see, this is where a lot of people make fun of Jordan Peterson, but it's actually true that your reality, that your perceptions is structured in a hierarchy. Whatever you perceive the world on, whatever you decide is valuable, whatever you have your aim, you are going to automatically rank your perceptions of that aim, okay? So some of these values, some of these things that you naturally desire are already innate, like the desire to sleep, the desire to reproduce, the desire to eat. Some of these goals, some of these aims are already innately wired, but there's other aims too, like a career, or focusing while you're reading a book, or following a religious pursuit. These are structures, these are order to the chaos, essentially. There's an infinite amount of facts, and you need to structure them. You don't even need to, your brain automatically does them, because if you don't have your own aims, your biology, evolution is just going to make the aim for you, okay? So you are bound by this neurochemically, okay, via attention. So whatever it is you want to give your attention to is due to your aim. And the way that you structure your aim is due to a hierarchy. So if one thing fits your goal more than another, you're going to naturally sacrifice that thing. So this is why in the Bible, there's a huge emphasis on sacrifice. And the word sacrifice in Hebrew is actually korban. It means it's korban. This is the word typically used in the Bible, and it translates to draw near. So when you have an aim, when you have a goal or a pursuit, you sacrifice every other input for your goal, okay? But it's not sacrifice in terms of our modern conceptions of like, okay, we're going to give away, or like we're gonna somehow give up and lose all these other things around us. Like, that's not actually what sacrifice means. Like, when you get in a marriage and you sacrifice all other women, you don't just give up all other women, you draw nearer, you draw closer to your wife or your spouse, and in consequence, all those other things naturally burn off, okay? So the basketball player on the court, he is going to draw near to his goal, and he's going to naturally, in consequence, lose all the other input, like some random person in the stadium or the mascot. He's not going to be focusing on that. In fact, you yourself, whatever your aim is, you're not going to necessarily focus on not focusing on the important things. You're just going to naturally focus on what matters. So the basketball player on the court isn't going to focus on, don't focus on all of the stuff that I shouldn't be focusing on, like that person's shoes, whatever. No, he's not going to think that. He's just going to naturally draw near to his goal, okay? And that is what the biblical insistence is you draw nearer to God, you build this relationship closer and closer to God, and in consequence, if you're actually doing that, you will lose all these other things like your sins or whatever, the theological, okay? So going back to our neuroscience, this is where we're actually going to dive into the processes, okay? So if you structure your aim via attention, you give your attention to the things that which you deem valuable. How do we deem what is valuable? This right here is the key subject of the world being inherently meaningful, okay? Because you are able to, via your aim, dictate what has meaning through pattern recognition. Okay, so your brain undergoes certain processes to dictate what fits this goal, what is meaning, okay, what out of all this input, what is meaningful towards my goal, okay, via pattern recognition. Now, pattern recognition, it's really important to understand, this is where Brent, the commenter, leaves a good point, is done via memory. Now, there is two forms of memory. There is, this is neuroscience right here, there is episodic memory and there's semantic memory. So episodic memory is more the emotional memory. Not necessarily purely emotional, but it is experience, it is personal. So you're going to learn things, you're going to remember things that are specific to you. They're typically narrative. They're a story of me and my brother when we were growing up, or my first time going to school, or when I moved out of my house. Okay, whatever. That's episodic memory, but there's also semantic memory, and this is fact. This is the definitions of words. This is math. This is things that are outside of experience that are universally the same for everyone. Semantic memory. So there's two forms of memory. Pattern recognition and memory go hand in hand. So Piaget, he is a developmental psychologist, particularly he focused more on children and childhood development. He has this concept of schemas, okay? Now schemas and memory go hand in hand, and schemas and pattern recognition are essentially the exact same thing. So as you're new into the world, you're like 5 or whatever, you're just brand new as a child, you are going to be exposed to a variety of novel pursuits, to a variety of novel things, okay? And these things, they need to be categorized, they need to be defined, they need to be implanted in your brain either via semantic or episodic memory. Now, the experience that you have of something, so let's do an example of a children noticing a car for the first time, okay? A child is going to see an object driving by, okay? Perhaps it's big, it's got 4 doors, it's got a sound, okay? And he's going to be taught with his parents or his environment around him that that is a car. So that child, whatever that consensus, that abstraction that he notices from car, big, 4-door, has a loud sound, whatever, he is going to extract that and develop his first schema of car. So he has just created a pattern of what car is and implanted it into his brain. Okay, now this is a blend of both episodic and semantic memory because you are defining what a car is, but also you are doing it through your episodic memory and you're developing this pattern for what car is. Okay, so let's say he has this pattern developed for car, but then a truck, he doesn't know it's a truck comes by and he is walking with his family and he says, oh, car, there's a car. Okay, that in itself is an incorrect pattern identification. So he would be corrected like, hey, no, that's actually a truck. A truck has a bed, or a truck is used to carry something. It's a lot bigger, maybe it's louder. And that child is going to now take his conception, his schema of what he thinks car is, and moldify that, make it more precise on what car actually is, and he's going to develop a new schema, a new pattern, a new recognition of what truck is. So he's going to separate the two and develop new memory via pattern recognition through this process of schemas. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Your memory also, your memory itself is no different than pattern recognition. So what you remember, what you are able to recall is going to be based off of your schemas and pattern recognition of things. Your exposure to new information as well, your short-term memory, there's short-term memory and there's long-term memory. When information is inputted into your short-term memory, when you are exposed to something new, it is going to activate parts of your brain in your long-term memory to connect the information. It's kind of like connecting new dots with your pre-existing dots that already exist in your long-term information. And you're going to try and detect if there's any other patterns, any other schemas that this can relate to help me comprehend, to help me deem if this thing, this input is meaningful towards my aim or goal. Okay, so that is essentially what memory is. So when you perceive something new, if you don't know what it is, you're going to try and you're either going to create a new schema or you're going to try and understand it via your memory and your past pattern recognition in your long-term memory, okay? And then you will encode it, that's another neuroscience term, a process of encoding into your long-term memory, or if it's not that valuable or that useful, it's just going to stay in your short-term memory and you probably will either forget it or once you see it again, it'll be activated again. Okay, so now going back to our aim and attention. Until you are able to understand what your aim is, or until you know what your goal is, you won't be able to rank the input of information. You won't be able to deem what is valuable. This is the same thing as like anxiety or whatever. Like when you don't have a goal, when you don't have, or when you have too many paths and you don't know where you want to go, it's hard to rank what it is that what you should do because there's so many things you have to do. You don't know what your goal is because there's too many different pursuits. There's too much input. So when you actually form a goal, or you just fall to the whim of your biology, the goals of your body, okay, your perception of reality, what you are going to focus on, you are going to hierarchically rank the input around you via pattern recognition, via memory of seeing what things are deemed as meaningful towards that goal, and then you will be able to give those patterns, give that input attention. So that is how you dictate what you give your attention to. You have all this input around you, you're kind of looking around you, and you're ranking these things. These are all unconscious processes. These are all the things that your eyes do, that your brain is undergoing. Okay, you're not actually thinking of this stuff, but there's all this input around you. Okay, and through your aim, whatever your aim is, if it's your own, your career goals, whatever, or if it's your biology, you're going to rank these things through value. So for an example of this is, there's a bunch of objects around me. There's books, there's a Rubik's Cube, there's a watch, there's honey, there's a bunch of stuff around me, but my goal right now is to talk to the camera. So I'm not necessarily going to focus, my perception is going to be focused on the camera. My perception isn't going to notice these things. I'm going to miss things. I'm going to draw near and sacrifice everything else around me to focus on the camera. Okay? Now, I'm able to tell what to focus on through my pattern recognition of what camera means. So camera means, okay, it literally means, oh, I'm talking to my viewer. I'm talking to you. Okay? I'm making this video. I'm giving it my attention. Okay, it's capturing the now, it's capturing me talking to you, okay? And that's the same thing. Whatever your goal is, you're going to be able to view objects, view people, view things around you through that inherent sense of meaning, because you're going to naturally rank things based on what they mean. So this idea that, like, okay, everything is meaningless, like I said in the other video, it's completely new. It's not how we have always viewed the world. Going back to the cup analogy from Jonathan Pajot and the one that I used in the other video, it's like a cup has an inherent meaning, and based on your perception, based on your goal, your aim, and what you give your attention to, you are going to see if that thing is deemed meaningful or not. But it has an inherent meaning. A cup is something you hold liquid with. A cup is something you drink liquid out of. That's what a cup is. Okay, a cup isn't just atomical matter, chemicals, and something on the periodic table. That's not how you actually perceive and view the world. Everything via your cognition, through your brain, it has an inherent meaning. And through your aim and goal, you will dictate the infinite input to rank all of the input hierarchically via value through pattern recognition, and you will give your attention to that thing because you have deemed it as meaningful towards your goal. Because everything has an inherent meaning. But you will deem some things more meaningful than others because of your perception and your goal. So your aim will literally change your perceptions. This is important to understand. So for example, there's a study, it's really famous, it's called the gorilla experiment, okay? And the viewers are asked to watch this video of, and count how many passes have been passed between this team, okay? And during the middle of the video, so first of all, that's the goal, that's the aim. Count as many passes as this team gives, or passes, okay? That's the goal and aim. In the middle of the video, literally in the middle of it, a big old gorilla comes walking in, pounds his chest, and he leaves. And right in the middle of the screen, or in the corner, like right, literally in the video, it's right there. And over half the viewers of this video didn't even notice it. And even when they told it after, they told them after, they wouldn't believe that that happened, that in that video, that it was a separate video, okay? So that's huge. That's important to understand how our perception works. Because if our aim is decided for us, we are not going to perceive other things around us. That's what I mean by that. That doesn't mean that the world is meaningless, because if our aim is that nothing matters, then we're going to obviously perceive that everything is meaningless, but that's not how it is. So going back to this gorilla experiment, if my focus is to see, my goal, my aim is to do X, okay, then I'm not going to notice, I'm not going to perceive, my perception is going to be wired to just focus on that, to give my attention on X. And everything else I'm not necessarily going to perceive as well. But if my perception and my aim and my goal was to focus on Y, okay, then my perception is going to change. So this is why two people, for example, two people can watch the video and one will see the gorilla and one not, because their perception, their aim might be different. If one person is told, hey, watch this video and see if anything weird happens, they might notice the gorilla because their goal is different. So their perception is going to be different of what is happening. Okay, like they're literally going to pay attention to more things going across the screen. They're going to be paying attention to the background. They're not just going to look and give their attention to just the ball, because that is not, from hierarchically speaking, the best route to detect if something weird is going to happen across the screen. Okay, they're going to try to pay attention to as many anomalies as possible so that they can focus on what is weird about this video, or if something weird is going to happen. Okay, so they're going to perceive the objects around them differently than somebody who's just trying to focus on the ball passes. So that's super important to understand. And I don't want this video to be too long, but I really want you to kind of start to let that sit with yourself, is like there's an infinite number of facts, but you rank them based off of your goal, based off of your aim. And you deem things meaningful. First off, this is going to be for the next or another video. You rank things based off their inherent meaning. And things have meaning, okay? Everything has meaning via logos. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a structure. That's why the universe is, they say it has a rational mind. Everything is governed by God. It has a logos, okay? That's what that means, okay? And also, from our goal and aim, we are going to naturally cut through all of the stuff around us to see what is deemed meaningful towards our goal or not. If this thing could be useful towards our goal or not. So that implies that everything has a meaning. It's just based off of your aim, you're going to rank which things around you are hierarchically a part of that goal. And that's why I'm saying the world is inherently meaningful, because everything has meaning around you. Everything has value. It's just based on what it is your goals are, you're going to rank that stuff of value around you on your goal. So I didn't want to make this too long, and this is just the neuroscience of it, very introduction. I didn't even get to the whiteboard, but I hope this kind of helps you kind of understand a little bit. It's really changed the way I go about viewing things. because in the previous video, if you haven't watched it, I recommend you watch it. It's important to understand how everything in the world has an inherent meaning. Symbols are meaningful. Everything has meaning. And when you go to read the Bible, or you go to read some scriptures, or you try to understand a religious concept, it's so easy to just be like, oh no, that's nothing, that's just some story. But that's not how you even view the world. So this is something that I'm going to tie into the next video. I wanted to make it kind of more introductory of the neuroscience of how you make sense through meaning, or make sense of meaning, and how meaning is inherent in the world, and it's us that dictate what we can deem as meaningful based on our aim. Please engage and leave some comments down below, because I would really like to make videos for you guys. I love talking about these things and researching them, as well as just sharing this information to the world, because we have truly lost this meaning. We have truly lost the meaning of life, and it's out there. Everything is there. Everything has the logos, and it's our eyes. This is what it means to view the world through Christ's eyes, to view the world with Christ in everything, because meaning, logos, is in everything, and it's us, our modern perceptions that are skewed. We're not going to view that because of our perception. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please leave a comment down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.